What is up, everybody? It is so good to be back with the boys, doing it three-man. We've been going so long just doing it solo, and boys, I'm glad that we're back doing this all three together. But I kind of wanted to do a general check-in, see how everyone's doing, let everybody know how we are feeling. Dalton, I'm gonna check in with you. How you feeling today?
Dude, I'm doing a lot better. I'm so glad to be back because this is how we started. This is how it all began. And we've been, like you said, we've been riding solo, but I'm happy to be back as a team and doing this with the boys. So that's what we are, boys on the bench, and we are boys again. So I'm loving it.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, it's how we started day one, so it's nice that we're getting back into this. But Nathan, I don't want to leave you hanging. How are you doing?
As y'all know me, I work my life away, hanging out, just trying to keep food on the table, getting ready for this 4th of July throwdown. I'm going to drink some cold beer. We'll have a good time, boys.
Nathan, I'm going to give a quick
America.
turnaround. And the thing is that you would love this hat. I actually thrifted this hat. Do you see it?
Oh, boy.
Oh, that's my yellow bellies right there,
Yeah,
baby. Let's
Coors
go.
Banquet. I got this from a Plato's Closet. $7. $7. It's like, why not? My boy Nathan, I know he'd be jealous. That's
There
why
you
I'm
go.
repping it for you tonight.
That's
So
the most expensive thing you've probably wore.
you're,
There
you're,
you go.
Hey, this shirt was thrifted too. My underwear, questionable. Don't ask me where I got it. Anyways,
Questionable that you're wearing it or questionable
I was about to say,
that
No, I'm
we
not.
got it?
I'm not.
It's,
I thrifted it.
yeah, I was about to say, we're supposed to be wearing some underwear these days.
Am I right? Am I right? Anyways, though,
I'm not gonna
guys,
stand up.
the purpose that we are here and the reason that you've probably tuned into this episode is because you're interested and to see what our takes are on these rookie wide receivers in this class. I know that a lot of these picks can kind of be unanimous to an extent, right? Marvin Harrison seems to be everybody's favorite, but that's what we're going to be talking about is ranking our top 6. There's going to be 10 potential wide receivers in this rookie class that we're going to be discussing and ranking through our personal 1 through 6. But before we jump into that, I did kind of want to jump into Daily Grind Fantasy because another side of what this Boys on the Bench channel does here is we are sports bettors. As Nathan mentioned, we all have our regular jobs. We do work 9 to 5. Sometimes we work a little bit longer than those 9 to 5 hours. We don't always have the time to make the most researched, the most educated bets. So we have to rely on sites like this, like Daily Grind Fantasy, that takes the research out of it. Because you can see here that what Daily Grind Fantasy does is they give you a % odds to hit based on what other sports books are betting. And basically you throw all of those into a parlay and really hope for the best. This idea is called positive EV betting, and it is proven to be one of the most profitable strategies betting. We just saw a guy named Alex, right? Very popular figure in this positive EV betting realm. Yesterday on Better, won $60,000 betting on Better. He ended the day plus $70,000, took a trip to Costa Rica, right? Using this process. This is something, again, if we did not believe in the process, we wouldn't be promoting it. So we are here today to tell you that if you do use the code BENCH, you will get 25% off. This is linked down in the description below. Please take advantage of this. If you bet on any daily fantasy sites, Prize Picks, Underdog, Parlay Pay, Better Picks, which is what Alex won on, it's absolutely crazy. So please take advantage of this. But let's go ahead and jump into what we have for you today, which is our rookie radar that we will be talking about today. And as I mentioned with that, like I said, we have our 10 rookies here for you, right? But with that, we're going to be ranking it 1 through 10. So Dalton, you are the first on this list, so I will be kicking it to you first. Who is your number 1?
So for my number 1, it's probably going to be very obvious as for everyone, and I'll be surprised if you guys don't have him as your number 1. But that is Marvin Harrison Jr. go with Arizona, guys. There's no competition there. I mean, he's competing with Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, and Trey McBride for targets. It just makes sense for me that this guy coming in here with his talent and then with all the target share that's going to be there, he's going to be a hog. I'm a big fan of Kyler Murray at the quarterback play. I'm not a big fan of his injury, but if we just take a look, if we've been keeping up with that injury, guys, Kyler Murray is getting over this mental hurdle. Like I said, it's something that is very scary and something that, with your wide receiver, they do rely on that big quarterback play. Kyler Murray is a dog, but there is that injury that kind of concerns me. However, I still believe the risk is worth the reward because Marvin Harrison Jr. is a game-changing athlete, and they will get him the ball regardless, whether that's on bubble screens in the backfield, however they can do it, short in the short to intermediate game. What he can do after the catch is amazing, and they're going to make it work with them. And I think regardless of who's playing at quarterback, whether the injury's still there, they're going to find a way to get the ball in the playmaker's hands, and that's Marvin Harrison Jr. So I have him at number 1 for us.
Right. Nathan, I'm going to kick it to you. Where do you have it in your number 1?
Marvin Harrison Jr. Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be my number 1. Pretty much like what Dalton said. They pretty much drafted him to come in and be the number 1 wide receiver. And like Dalton said, we got to see that step up from Kyler Murray. The only thing that worries me about Kyler Murray is that Call of Duty will be dropping in the middle of football season. So, we know how Kyler is with his gaming. So, I don't know. I'm just messing around. But, yeah, you want to see Kyler Murray take that turn and kind of hope that it'll be like a Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson link up like what Justin Jefferson did his rookie year. So I think the potential's there just because, like Dalton mentioned, there's not really anybody that he's going to be fighting with for targets there. And I think that the Cardinals did draft him to be their number 1 wide receiver, and he's a very, very talented wide receiver.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with y'all. I really don't have much more to add outside of what y'all have already added. I agree. Marvin Harrison is going to be the number 1 wide receiver in this class. He is the safest option. Whether he finishes as that wide receiver 1, obviously that is to be determined, but it's also naive to think that he has the lowest risk out of all of these wide receivers. This Cardinals team just got rid of Marquise Hollywood Brown. He's not returning. They arguably just lost their number 1 wide receiver. Marvin Harrison comes into a perfect spot. So, again, everything looks like it's piled up really great for him. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Nathan, I'm going to kick it to you. Who is your number 2 in this?
I'm going to go Malik Neighbors.
Okay, why is that?
I have Malik Neighbors as my number 2 is because the Giants, they're in a rebuild stage, but at the same time, they really don't have anybody to throw the ball to. We see Darren Waller talking about retirement and retiring. So they're playing in a conference that's with the Eagles and the Commanders and the Cowboys who can spread the ball out and throw the ball extremely well. Dak has done it very, very well in his career, throwing the ball. We see the weapons that Jalen Hurts has with the Eagles, and we see what the Commanders are going to do. They don't have a bad wide receiving core, and they just drafted their franchise quarterback, so they'll be able to throw the ball out. So this is going to be where the Giants are going to have to step up because they are going to be playing behind in a lot of their games. And in order to keep up, they're going to have to throw the football, and there's nobody really there. It's kind of the same situation that Marvin Harrison Jr. is in. There's nobody really there to for Malik Neighbors to kind of battle for targets with. I think the Giants drafted him solely to be the number 1 wide receiver for them and to give more of help for Daniel Jones because he signed that $40 million contract. So they just need help, and I think that's going to be where Malik Neighbors steps in. And we just saw how good he was at LSU, and I think he will be the number 1 receiver for the New York Giants this year.
Got it. Dalton, I'm going to kick it to you. Where do you have your number 2 rookie wide receiver going? Or who is it? I kind of worded that a little weird.
Well, to kind of go off of what Nathan was saying, I'm actually going to go ahead and tell you my number 3 because that is Malik Neighbors, and then I'll shoot over to my number 2 after you, DJ. But Malik Neighbors, I have him as my number 3, and to kind of just play off what Nathan was saying, I just feel like the reason I couldn't take him number 2 is because of the shaky quarterback play that is there. I just feel like it's a little too sporadic, and we saw that in Daniel Jones, and we also know that he had that injury as well. So and then when you bring in Drew Lock, there's just too much going on outside of Daniel Jones. I just don't think the quarterback play is very appetizing to me to take Malik Neighbors at number 2. And then also, like I was saying with Kyler Murray, we see what happens to these top tier quarterbacks such as Carson Wentz and RG3 and how they can have these star-studded seasons, MVP caliber type players but after ACL tears, they just completely just plummet, right? So that's the one thing that only concerns me, especially with Kyler Murray too. But the difference here is I just feel like I kind of like where Marvin Harrison's at with, being able to get these target shares and everything. But with Malik Neighbors, I feel like he is also in a kind of a good situation as well. It's just I don't really trust the quarterback play to begin with, even before the ACL tear. So for me, that's why I had him drop a little bit. However, the reason he doesn't go lower than 3 is because I just feel like the Giants are going to have terrible team play. They are a bit of a dumpster fire right now, and they're going to need to keep up in these games and do a pass heavy attack again this year, which is going to benefit Malik Neighbors. So I still feel like he is a good pick. I still would take him at number 3, but the reason why he dropped down for me was just, again, the quarterback play. However, I do think this was a terrific pick and a great supporting cast pick for whoever may be at the quarterback position in the future. So this is somebody that I think you could snag now, will benefit you now, but will be a tremendous value for you in the next coming years.
Right. Dalton, I want you to go ahead and tell us your number 2, though. I'll double up, and then we'll kick it to Nathan for his number 3. So who was your number 2?
Yeah, so for my number 2, I have Rome Odunze with Chicago. I think this is, to me, the reason I have him at number 2 is because I think he's a very promising wide receiver. His size and athleticism just make him such a strong candidate for red zone targets. And I had mentioned this to you guys before, but when I see him, I just see T. Higgins. I know he's got Keenan Allen and DJ Moore on the field, but so did T. Higgins with Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd. I think we can have a very good wide receiver, even though they are loaded with talent at the wide receiver position. I do think Caleb Williams can do fairly well his rookie season. I think he will get better, and what we've seen at his collegiate level. So I'm not too worried at the quarterback position here, and I just think he'll carve out a nice role in this offense as a rookie. I'm not expecting him to break any rookie records like we saw Justin Jefferson do, but he could very well have a rookie season on par with what I'm expecting T. Higgins is currently doing. And if you're telling me that is currently his ceiling is T. Higgins, I'm going to take that all day long. So that's why I have him at my number 2 right now.
Got it. Okay, good. So I'm kind of conflicted. I'll get into Malik Neighbors. He's not my number 2. Actually, my number 2 may seem like a little bit of a stretch for some people, but it's actually Ladd McConkey. The reason that I love Ladd McConkey, though, is he's entering this Chargers offense that simply has no competition. They no longer have Mike Williams. They no longer have Keenan Allen. They no longer have Austin Eckler. All of these top 3 pass catchers are out of this offense. Completely out of this offense. He has now entered himself into an offense where he is possibly the best hands catcher on this team. We saw Quentin Johnston last year in his rookie season struggle in this offense. I know that there's a new head coach there who is going to be very run heavy, but even with that, I'm not feeling that Ladd McConkey needs to necessarily be touchdown dependent in order to be a very efficient wide receiver. I honestly, I think that if he even hits 3 touchdowns this season, I consider that very productive for him. And realistically, I think that that's a realistic expectation. I think he's going to be highly dependent. We're going to see him get 5, 6, 7 receptions a game, and that's going to be highly productive. He's going to be someone that's on your team that is averaging 9 to 10 points. He's going to be a double-digit scorer in multiple weeks this season, and I have full confidence in that. I have him going as my number 2 wide receiver. I think a lot of these rookies are going to have a little bit of a tougher time getting into these offenses. And I'll touch on Rome Odunze, but I don't have him in my top 3 for that reason. That's why I have Ladd McConkey moving so far up. He's such a talented wide receiver, and he's joining this offense that really doesn't have a ton of competition. I don't know how much they're going to compete this year, which honestly is another good thing. This offense, no matter how much people want to say that that's going to be a run-first offense, I don't know if that's actually going to happen with this Chargers team who's likely to play behind and a ton of games. They gave up a lot of superstars. I'd be really surprised. But anyways, that does bring me to my 3rd overall pick for this in my rankings, and that is actually going to be Malik Neighbors. And it's kind of a combination with the two of y'all were saying. Malik Neighbors, love him as a prospect. He has such a high ceiling, but basing it off of this year alone, I'm kind of worried about how his rookie season may go. His initial season, I think, in the NFL is going to struggle a little bit. This New York Giants team, it just struggles, right? They did get a lot. They did get rid of Saquon Barkley. I think that they're going to do their best. He is a freak of an athlete. They're going to do their best to get him involved inside of this offense, whether that be dump passes. That is Daniel Jones' thing. I think that, if the system, it's broken, but if it's not broke, then don't fix it. Like, that's the way that their offense is going to run. I get it. So why not use Malik Neighbors as one of those guys? But because of that, I think that I have to take him a little bit of a dip. He's a better athlete than Ladd McConkey, but again, Ladd McConkey has put himself in a lot better situation. But that's kind of where I'm at on this. Nathan, though, I'm going to kick you off. Let's go ahead and finish off our top 3 rankings for us. And what do you have here?
Yeah, go ahead and put Ladd McConkey on there for me at number 3.
Okay.
I kind of have him there at 3 just because you stated this, basically the same reasons that you stated, DJ. It's a offense where all the weapons are gone. Herbert's going to need to find somebody he can trust. Ladd McConkey has great hands and he's very shifty. He can basically be like the next Julian Edelman. And I really think they're going to work him in the slot, try to get some one-on-one matchups on middle linebackers. He's very shifty. He's very quick. And kind of like what Kirk Herbstreit said is that he does his best work in RAC, yards after catch. Or YAC, yards after catch, sorry. And that's where I think he's going to shine. But like you said, DJ, I think he won't be touchdown heavy, but I think he'll have a lot of yards and a lot of receptions this year.
Yeah. All right, Dalton, I'm going to kick it back off to you. Let's start off ranking number 4. Who do you have?
So I'm just going to keep this ball rolling with Ladd McConkey.
All right.
So for me, he would have been a lot higher on my list, and I think I would have had him around number 2, right where you have him at, DJ. Like I said, the only thing that's keeping him lower for me at that 4 position is what we have with that new head coach with Jim Harbaugh, possibly being a super run-heavy team and just taking away a lot of those shares of what we could get in that short game. However, I do think that, like we were saying, with Keenan Allen and Mike Williams now gone and out of Los Angeles, I think this is going to be Justin Herbert's new favorite target. Year 1. I think he's going to be a great blanket option, supporting cast for him, someone he can get the ball to very quick. Could be great at the RPO, run pass option. So I think they could get him mixed in very well. Like Nathan was saying, I don't see him being a very high-producing touchdown candidate for you on your team. However, we have seen players go out there. Adam Thielen is one that comes to my mind immediately. Julian Edelman. They can go out there and immediately do great for your team, get you 10 or 12 points, no touchdowns, literally 6 catches, 10 targets, and do you well for the day. And if they get a touchdown, then that's just icing on the cake. And so, that could be a 20-point game right there with 1 touchdown. So I think that he can bring a lot of upside to you and your team, especially with as much targets as he could get, especially if they're running, coming down and they need to get caught back up in the game. I could see them leaning very heavily on their passing game and getting Ladd McConkey involved very quick and early to get caught back up. So I think there's a very good possibility, like I said, I think 4 is his lowest, but I think he could end up being the second best receiver in this class for sure. But like I said, it just drops for me because of just the offensive scheme there under Jim Harbaugh.
Got it. All right, Nathan, I'm going to kick it to you. Number 4, who do you got?
Go ahead, put up my boy Xavier Worthy, baby. Hook him.
I knew you were going to get one of these guys in here soon enough.
Oh, yeah.
Look, I really like Xavier Worthy. I've had the privilege. I'm a big Texas Longhorns fan, always been one. I've had the privilege to watch Xavier Worthy the past 3 years at the University of Texas. I will say his sophomore season, he really struggled with drops. He did. And but he bounced back last year. And it was really great to see him kind of feed off Adonai Mitchell, but he's super quick. He's so fast. And you might run into people who'd be like, well, he'll just get jammed up at the line, but that's if you can get your hands on him. I mean, look at all the cornerbacks that were covering him in college. They were still just twice his size, and he was still able to break away and make catches. And if you go back and you watch, sorry, Dalton, if you go back and you watch the Alabama game, he had one kind of a contested hard catch that he did on the DB there. And he's just an all around athlete, and he's just fallen into one of the best situations that any rookie receiver could have fallen into. And that's because of Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and the way that they utilize Tyreek Hill. So that's why I think they drafted Worthy. I think that Andy Reid is going to use Xavier Worthy like they use Tyreek Hill, work a lot of out of the slot, trying to get him on the slant, do yards after catch, middle of the field, medium routes. I think he's going to be very elusive, and I think where he's going to get you your most points is he's going to be his yards after catch because he's so quick. But also watch out for the deep ball because Patrick Mahomes can gunsling it, and Worthy's got the speed to get down there quickly.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more, Nathan. I'm actually going to follow you on this. I did have Xavier Worthy as my number 4 option here as well, and it's everything that you're saying. As a rookie, he obviously entered probably one of the most favorable teams. Obviously, anyone that has Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback, you're automatically entering a favorable situation. So because of that, I do have him a little bit higher. Now, the reason that I have him a little bit higher now, because if you would have asked me maybe 2 months ago where I had Xavier Worthy immediately after he got drafted, I wasn't necessarily a big fan. I see why they drafted him. They kind of we all assume that they've wanted to kind of replace that old Tyreek Hill role where they can have a speedster who can has a ton of potential and yak opportunity, like you were saying, Nathan. Xavier Worthy is that type of guy. They tried to force MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, into that role. That's not him. That's not MVS. That is Xavier Worthy, right? But I think where I love him at 4 currently is more so than anything is we don't really know what's up with Rashee Rice. There's so many question marks going around Rashee Rice and whether he's going to have a suspension, and we don't even know how long that's going to last. So because of that, we're still kind of waiting on that. I have moved up Xavier Worthy a little bit further up my list because that's less competition in the room. He now enters a room where he's going to be competing for wide receiver 1 on that team. Like he really is. I mean, he could be one of the best catchers outside of obviously Travis Kelce, Isaiah Pacheco. Like he could be the number 1 wideout in terms of wide receivers. And I love that potential for him, but we still don't know what's going to happen with Rashee Rice. And that's kind of the gamble that you're taking. But I assume that there is going to be some sort of suspension, whether that be a 4-game suspension. That's kind of what I'm assuming is going to happen. At minimum, it's a 4-game suspension. So I take my gambles on that. A minimum of a 4-game suspension, that's going to move him further up these rankings as a rookie. And even if Rashee Rice comes back, I still like where his position on this offense. So that's kind of where I have it there, though. Dalton, I'm going to kick it back to you, though. We're going to start you back off at number 5. Who do you have at number 5 on your list?
Yeah, so I'm going with another speedy wide receiver here, but I'm going to go with someone here on the East Coast, and that is going to be Brian Thomas Jr. Guys, I really like this player here. I know a lot of people have their questions about him, but I just really like his size, where he's at 6'3" and 209 pounds. But not only that, but his speed is a 4.33 second 40-yard dash. He's extremely fast for his size, so I think he could be very similar to DK Metcalf when it comes to size and speed. You just don't see that a whole lot. Usually, if you're faster, you're real small. Whereas if you've got that nice body frame, like Mike Evans or Keenan Allen, who can go up and get the ball, they're usually a little bit slower. However, he's got a good mixture of both. The only thing that does kind of worry me, and I think that worries a lot of people, is who's there. And Calvin really is gone, but you still got Christian Kirk and you still got Evan Ingram, and who I think can eat up a lot of those shares. And you've got ETN in the backfield as well. However, I do think that he could be a very high producing athlete that could get you those deep balls. One catch could get you 15 points just alone. I think he can give you that. And I think he could be a very much walk in and be a favorite target immediately for Trevor Lawrence. Also, I know a lot of people have their questions about Trevor Lawrence. However, you have to remember he just signed a $55 million per year contract over 5 years, which kind of gets him up there with the Joe Burrow type of contracts. So they are expecting a lot of him. They show that they trust their quarterback. I think Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback. I think he's good. I don't think he's the best, but I think he's going to get the job done. I do trust him. And I think they're going to do very well. And I think hopefully they can click here with Brian Thomas Jr. I think he's a great athlete. He's shown he's gotten 17 touchdowns at LSU. He was one of the highest touchdown producers at the collegiate level, and I'm hoping that can translate well to the NFL and that they can get some things going there with Trevor Lawrence after he's just signed this big contract. So I'm looking for some big things here. I think they could definitely hit it off right. So,
all right, Nathan, who do you got at number 5?
Number 5, I'm gonna go Keon Coleman.
Okay.
I really like Keon Coleman here, and let's just talk about to the Buffalo Bills. Let's just talk about this guy was really really good at Florida State. He wasn't like Dalton had mentioned. Talk about Brian Thomas Jr. He's not as fast as Brian Thomas Jr., but he plays kind of like Mike Evans. He can be a big body guy, go and make contested catches, and he's very very good. And let's not forget that Bills just got rid of Stephon Diggs. He's now out and playing with the Texans. So they do have their really good tight end that they drafted last year, Dalton Kincaid. But Keon Coleman is going to come in and almost be competing for the number 1 wide receiver job. They got rid of Gabe Davis, and I just think that this will be a good fit and good connection for Josh Allen, because now that you got the drama of Stephon Diggs out, where week to week he was saying that Josh Allen's really really good, and the next week Diggs is saying that he's terrible and the worst quarterback in the NFL. So Keon Coleman can come in and get a good connection going with Allen, and I think they can do some good things, and I think it's going to work well for the both of them, and it's going to put some trust and trying to lift some, what's the word I'm looking for?
Morale? Some morale?
No, just trying to relieve some of that pressure off Allen, because now he can have a receiver that he can trust, and a guy that's not gonna badmouth him and bash him week to week. So I like this play, and plus Josh Allen can sling it. The Bills like to throw the ball; they throw the ball a lot. Josh Allen throws the ball a lot, so I think this is a good pickup.
Yeah, 100%. And Nathan, I'm following you in back-to-back picks here. I've actually had Keon Coleman. He's kind of jumped up my board here as well. Like Xavier Worthy in my mind kind of jumped up this board. But Keon Coleman, again, like you were saying though, he's entering another favorable position where he may honestly be the number 1 wide receiver on this team. Like currently, if you look at the depth chart of the Buffalo Bills, their wide receiver 1 is Khalil Shakir. Outside of that, they did sign free agents, Marquez Valdez-Scantling that I was mentioning. We've seen how much he struggled in a very high-powered offense. I don't expect him to have a ton of influence on this Bills offense. But then they also got Curtis Samuel and Chase Claypool, right? 2 very mediocre wide receivers. Keon Coleman probably has the highest ceiling and the most potential out of them. The Buffalo Bills also, like you said, Nathan, throw a ton. This is all seeming to add up for Keon Coleman. He came off of a fantastic year for that Florida State team. I expect that to continue to go. He's an exceptional athlete, and I think the Bills honestly got a steal. He is a guy that could be replaced by Stephon Diggs. If he continues to kind of go up this trajectory that he's been going at these last couple seasons in college, he has the opportunity to be a very productive player inside the NFL. So because of that and where he got drafted with no really wide receiver competition, yes, Dalton Kincaid is there, and that honestly helps Keon Coleman. That's going to help him out on the outside with safeties being able to be pulled from Dalton Kincaid, allowing him that one-on-one opportunity where he saw him absolutely dominate in college. So I really love that spot. But Dalton, I am going to kick it back off to you. Where do you have your number 6 rounding off your top 6 rankings of these rookie wide receivers?
So for me, for my 6th player that I have going, I have Keon Coleman. I really like him where he's at there with Buffalo. Just like Nathan was saying, I really do see him being that big-bodied receiver, just like Mike Evans. Going in immediately day one, just walking into the facility, he's immediately Josh Allen's favorite target. I mean, if we look at who's already there right now, we've got Khalil Shakir, Curtis Samuel, Mac Hollins, and Chase Claypool. None of those receivers have even gone over 1,000 yards receiving yet, like that last season. So he's walking into a receiving core that needs a lot of help, and immediately Keon Coleman's going to do that for them. So I think he's going to, and not only that, but he is, like I said, a big player. He's 6'3", 213 pounds. He's going to be a big-time red zone target for them. The only thing is, it's just his 4.61 40-yard dash. He's not the fastest of guys out there, but neither is Keenan Allen, neither is Mike Evans. They just know how to go out there, good body placement. They know how to use their size, box out, make big plays. And so I love it. I think he's going to walk. And like I said, where I have him at 6 is just really because of where he steps right in day one. I just hope he can get that connection there with Josh Allen, who is arguably a top 3 quarterback in the NFL, which is another added bonus to that. But I'm just hoping he's not going to be very touchdown dependent. I'm hoping we can get more than just touchdowns out of him. But because of that, the dependency of what I'm thinking, that's why he fell to 6 for me. So
got it. Okay, Nathan,
Well,
who do you got for your list? Or you want to add a point to that and then get into it?
yeah, I was gonna say, like, you heard it here first, though, guys. Keon Coleman could be a steal in your redraft leagues, guys. Seriously, he like Dalton mentioned, he's probably going to be the number one target of day one of training camp. So I definitely would draft him in a dynasty league because I think the potential's there, and he's going to be the number one wide receiver. But I think that's going to be one of the steals of the draft there.
I think it'd be worth the
But
risk for sure.
yeah. But moving in number 6, I am going to go Roma Duze. I have him low at number 6 because of I just don't trust Caleb Williams, guys. I don't trust Caleb Williams. Somebody needs to knock him off his fucking high horse. Sorry, sorry,
No,
but this man hadn't even thrown a pass yet in the NFL, and people are already talking like him, like he's going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But also, it's very crowded over there. I mean, you got DeAndre Swift, that's their new running back. You got DJ Moore, who's also still very young. He's still young. And you have Keenan Allen. And everyone's saying, well, Keenan Allen's old. He is old, but he's still very productive. He still is very productive. And you've seen all the OTAs. Caleb Williams throwing 7 interceptions, being benched in OTAs. You've had DJ Moore talk about how he misses Justin Fields and he wished that the Bears would have kept Justin Fields. So I think the potential, and I think Roman Duze is a great athlete and a great wide receiver. I really, really do. I just don't trust Caleb Williams, and it's very crowded over there in Chicago. I think their GM did a fantastic job in free agency, and that's why I have Roma Duze down where he is at 6, is not because of his potential and his athletic ability. It's because of how crowded it is in Chicago in that wide receiver room, and I'm just not sold on Caleb Williams yet.
Yeah, and Nathan, we've followed each other the last 3 picks. I mean, it kind of is what it is, though. I mean, you honestly, summed it up pretty well for me. And what I was going to say about Rome Odunze is as a prospect, I love him. Like, I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, and not that we necessarily needed him, but I think he's someone that everyone would have loved to have on their team. He only made sense to be drafted as a Chicago Bear in that offense. I mean, yes, they have a loaded group, but like you're saying, Keenan Allen is old, right? But if we're looking at it in terms of this year, which is the purpose of these rankings, as we're looking at it as their rookie year, he's entering a very crowded room. Like you were saying, I don't need to list all of these players again. These very crowded room. Like, it's going to take him a couple weeks to get adapted into the NFL. Like, that's typical rookie kind of problems, right? All of these guys on this board are going to have that problem, but that's the problem that I have with Rome Odunze. He's really one of the only guys that's in a crowded room. All of the guys on my list above it, right? Keon Coleman, arguably wide receiver 1. Xavier Worthy, depending on Rashee Rice, arguably could be wide receiver 1. Malik Neighbors, quarterback situation, but I love his ceiling, but there's really no even competition there. Ladd McConkey, who's there? Marvin Harrison, who's there, right? That's the reason that Rome Odunze has dropped down so far for me, is because he's entered such a crowded room. Love him, though. I really do like him as a Packers fan. I wish nothing but the worst for Bears, but you got an absolute steal. Just don't know how the rookie season's going to go compared to these other rookies. So
now I do feel like I need to add something, only because I have him as my number 2, person on the board right now. So I feel like I need to get on the defense right now. So the only thing, like I said, I'm going to say is we have seen wide receiver threes who are in a crowded room have all been able to benefit very much on a team. Just like I said with T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, and Tyler Boyd, right? We've seen them all come in and be able to benefit and have a very promising thing. Now, I will say too, the reason I like Roma Dunze is because I believe he's going to benefit very, very well against the third best cornerbacks with Allen and Moore on the field. Now, if you're going to tell me that Roma Dunze, and we know how good he is, if you put the third best cornerback on the field versus him, I think that it is definitely going to open things wide open for him. I mean, I think he's absolutely going to dominate if they do that because you can't single-handedly stop DJ Moore. You can't single-handedly stop Keenan Allen. So how are you going to single-handedly stop Roma Dunze? So I just don't see it happening. I think, like you guys said, I'm not the biggest fan of Caleb Williams. I think we can all three agree on that. So I think that's the only risk that I have. However, I'm not worried about it being a crowded room. I think it's going to benefit them super well because it's going to be a defensive nightmare with these three wide receivers. And I think
Well,
Ruma Dunze will be okay.
yeah. It's just gonna be weird to see how they mesh because like you have DJ Moore who is a wide receiver one, you have Keenan Allen who is a wide receiver one. Like all these guys are wide receiver ones, and like the third best cornerback is better than the best cornerback in college football.
I mean,
So it's
that is always the question whenever these rookies do enter is like, you're actually seeing a league of men and I'm not saying like we never made it to college football. So I'm not saying that anything, not to discount them, but right. That is the competitive difference. Like
yeah. I just want to see how they mesh though, because like all these guys are wide receiver ones. Somebody's gonna have to be wide receiver two. Somebody's gonna have to be wide receiver three. So it's gonna be weird to see how it plays out because it's like Keenan Allen's the majority of his career in Los Angeles, wide receiver one. DJ Moore, Carolina, wide receiver one. Chicago last year, wide receiver one. So that's the big thing too to look at is how are they all three going to mesh with their all three in their mindset? Like, hey, I'm wide receiver one here.
right.
And another thing to look forward to is like with Keenan Allen, we know how old he's getting and up in age, right? And he has battled his fair share of injuries. So just another thing too, and we can't bank on that, but just think if there is an injury with DJ Moore or Keenan Allen, that could open things wide up for for Roma Dunze for sure, absolutely. So that's something to be cautious of as well with Keenan Allen being up in age. So
I mean,
in his injury history.
For sure. All right. The last thing I wanted to touch on, I want y'all to go over, all three go over it really briefly, but looking over your list, the biggest person that we kind of left out, I want you to give us just kind of a brief reason why. Not too much explanation. Dalton, looking at your list, these 10 rankings were based 1 through 10 off of Fantasy Pro sites based on their ADP. Marvin Harrison ADP as a rookie being drafted first overall, and it kind of goes down this list. Based off of your list, Dalton, Xavier Worthy was your guy. Why did you leave Xavier Worthy off of your list?
So I stayed away from Xavier Worthy just because I know he's coming into a fantastic offense. You've got Andy Reid, the mastermind guru, and then you've also got Patrick Mahomes, the 100-yard gunslinger. I get it. And they are trying to fill a Tyreek Hill void, but I just feel like trying to fill a void that Tyreek Hill left is just impossible. I think that he fits that mold well, but what gets me is he's a terrific wide receiver, but his size just worries me at the pro level. He is 165 pounds soaking wet. And like you guys said, going that transition from college to the pros, it's a completely different thing. You're playing boys to men, right? And these defenses are so much more complex, and these cornerbacks are going to be so much more physical. And we've seen where wide receivers have come in, and it doesn't change anything with, tight end.
For Travis Kelce.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, sorry. Total brain loss. But with Travis Kelce, where he's still getting 15 targets in a game, right? So it just doesn't change anything. To me, the feeling that I'm getting in my gut is that he's going to come in and he's going to be able to spread these defenses out with his speed. And I think he'll have flashes of his moments and he'll have big plays for sure. Absolutely. But I feel like more than anything, it's just going to really help, the Chiefs out and getting these defenses spread out for Travis Kelce, and helping Patrick Mahomes hit these wide receivers because he's very good at spreading the ball around. And also, like Nathan had mentioned before, he has had 12 drops in his last 2 seasons. So drops have been a thing for him. So not only is he streaking down the field and he's got to make these contested catches against these tough cornerbacks and these tough defenses, but he's got to make the catch. So that's one thing that kind of just got on me right there. And I think his floor is pretty low, but his ceiling, though, I will admit, is one of the highest on the list based on what we've seen Tyreek Hill do with similar attributes. So I do think that he could be one of the best wide receivers, but to me, out of a gut feeling, I just don't feel good about it. So that's why he fell out of my top 6. But I do have him at 7. So
all right. Nathan, what about you? Who is the biggest guy that you left out on your list according to this is Brian Thomas. Why did you leave Brian Thomas out?
First off, Brian Thomas is a athlete. He is a athlete. This is a guy who played at LSU with Malik Neighbors, and he led all of college football in touchdowns. Like, this guy is a tremendous athlete and a tremendous wide receiver. I am not sold on Trevor Lawrence. Saw last year, Calvin Ridley had this hype, massive hype, going into Jacksonville with Trevor Lawrence, and that he was going to be a phenomenal wide receiver, and he was potentially going to be the top wide receiver in fantasy football because now they have somebody other than Christian Kirk to throw the ball to. But when it came down to it, Trevor Lawrence still wanted to throw the ball to Christian Kirk. And we're, like Dalton mentioned, you're paying Trevor Lawrence Burrow-type money without the Burrow-type play. Like, I haven't seen anything from Trevor Lawrence that tells me that he's a top 10 quarterback in football in the NFL. I haven't seen it yet. I'm just not sold on it. I don't think he's consistent enough. I don't think he's definitely hasn't transitioned as well as a lot of people thought he would. So I think this is why I think I just don't trust Trevor Lawrence, and I think that he just has a really good connection with Christian Kirk, and also not to mention Evan Ingram too. He's done really well with Evan Ingram towards the back half of the season last year, and it just really seems like the guys that Lawrence has a really good connection with are the guys that he's gonna lean on the most, and that to me that's just Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram, because it just seemed like there was no trust or faith in Calvin Ridley there. As good as Calvin Ridley is, and you still look for Christian Kirk to make the big play. If Brian Thomas and Trevor Lawrence can get in there and work out and build trust and Lawrence have some faith in him to make the contested catches and to be his guy, the potential is there. I just don't trust Lawrence, and I just think that he gets too comfortable with the guys that he just was throwing to his rookie year, in my opinion.
No, and Nathan, this is the guy that, I mean, again, we're following each other one more time to end this episode out. But again, it's the thing that I think you mentioned more so for me was the Calvin Ridley aspect. It's hard for me. I do need a Trevor Lawrence season where he gets everyone involved in that offense. Everyone, I bought so much of the hype and the stock in Calvin Ridley last year, and it burned me so bad. And I don't know how much of that was actually Calvin Ridley's fault. We obviously saw that he had a year of absence, blah, 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 whatever, from his gambling aspect. He may have been used to daily grind. Anyways, though, it doesn't matter. But it's tough for me to see a rookie come into this and it's not work. It just, I don't know. One of the most coveted wide receivers in the NFL, and Calvin Ridley. You hear about who runs the crisp routes. It's Calvin Ridley's in that conversation. He's not always the number one, but he's always in that conversation, and we still can't even get the ball in his hands that much. What is Brian Thomas Jr. going to do in an already crowded room? That's the reason that I dropped him out. Again, like we're saying, though, his ceiling is so high. If Trevor Lawrence is able to figure it out, get the ball spread out a little bit more, then yes, I'll buy into this a little bit more. Like, obviously, I love all of these rookie wide receivers, but it's just, the Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas, they're probably in the more crowded rooms that have the younger quarterbacks, everything else. So that's kind of where I was at on that. But anyways, guys, these are our 1 through 6 rankings. Obviously, kind of 1 through 7. assuming that this is who we were going to put there. Is what it is. But anyways, though, thank y'all so much for listening. Make sure to drop a like if you found this comment or content helpful. Drop a comment below telling us whether we were right, whether we were wrong, letting us know what your rankings were, 1 through 6 as well. Let us know if we're a bunch of bozos. I don't know. It is what it is. Anyways, though, thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel as well. Check out Daily Grind Fantasy if you are interested in sports betting as well. One of the most profitable ways to become a sports bettor. Anyways, though, I will see y'all next time. Ride the pine.
Glad to be back with you boys.